my name is Strange, and I believe that people should know the truth. After I began to publish the story that happened to the refugees from Russia, many of our viewers realized that they could try to get in touch with me. That's what our hero did, whose name he asked not to reveal. After he told me his story, I wanted to meet him, but the only thing our hero wanted was to share his story. Talk it out if you want. He recorded everything on a dictaphone and asked her to make it public in case he was gone. I am bringing the record without changes.
I work in the library of our city and something strange is happening here. I think I'll start a little ahead of the main events. I will clarify, so to speak, the exposition. I am a library employee and my job is to sort books, maintain catalogs, and distribute books to visitors. Besides me, there are 3 other people working in the library. A student girl, an old lady director, and her friend of the appropriate age who is responsible for books. Our library was not large. In fact, we occupied the first floor of a 3-story building and the basement, which we used as storage. The basement itself was spacious, dry and cool, so most of the books and all the documents were stored there. Yes, since I'm a guy, I had to carry piles of books and documents. And one day, while lowering another pile of books into the basement, I stumbled at the very end of the stairs and fell. Moreover, he fell as stupidly as possible, managing to turn 180 degrees around his axis in the air, and as a result landing on the concrete floor of the basement, not with his face, but with his ass and back. The books I was carrying, of course, fell apart, as well as the papers with numbers attached to them. Yes, we keep books numbered so that it is easier to find them, but we do not write numbers on the covers of the books themselves, because this is barbarism. At least that's what the old director says. After that, I had to go to the catalog and look for the numbers of those books that I was carrying to the basement. That's when I noticed the first oddity. Some numbers in the catalog were simply skipped. I mean, they didn't exist at all. Here comes 143, here comes 144, and then 146. Where did 145 go? I have no idea. And this was not the only case, no. In about every 40 rooms, one was missed. 17, 61, 83, and so on. There was no sense, no logic or sequence. The book numbers were simply missing. And out of curiosity, I decided to figure it out. There wasn't much to do anyway, so why not occupy yourself with such an impromptu investigation, I thought. At first, I decided to just ask the old lady who was in charge of the library. And she replied to me that these were just typos, saying that I was old, sometimes missing numbers in documents. Nothing like that. I agreed, but still decided to go back down to our basement and look for books whose numbers were missing. Yes, it could be that if there is no number, then there is no book, but I decided to check anyway. After walking up the stairs again and reaching the huge iron bookcases, I began to search, systematically sorting through the mountain of waste paper that was stored in them. An hour passed, followed by another, and I was already thinking of giving up on this case because I still didn't find anything. However, luck smiled on me. Under the number 326, which was also missing from the catalog, there was a thin notebook with 18 sheets. I was intrigued and immediately opened it, but almost immediately closed it back with undisguised disappointment. The notebook was filled with some kind of scribbles that vaguely resembled a mixture of Chinese and Japanese characters, only distorted to the point of impossibility. And for some reason, my head started to hurt when I tried to make out what was written, relying on my limited knowledge of Chinese. It didn't work out, so I shoved the notebook back into the closet without thinking and headed home. The working day was already coming to an end, and I also had a headache. I thought at the time that it was because I had been sitting in a stuffy basement for several hours. In short, I managed to take time off, and I headed towards my house, dreaming of a pack of headache pills. That's where the strangest thing starts. The next day, I woke up with a headache that hurt even more, and a temperature under 39 degrees. So I warned everyone in the library that I would not be at work today due to illness and fell back on the bed. The whole day passed as if in a delirium, from which I only occasionally fell out to drink antipyretic or just Moors. But the dreams were the worst. The dreams I saw were filled with those scribbles from the notebook I found. But these scribbles behaved not like ordinary drawings, but like roots. It was as if they were growing, growing. They grew first on paper, and now on my own mind. I saw it, and I'm willing to bet my hand I felt it. Although at that time I blamed everything on hallucinations from high fever. We would all think the same, I think. Dreams at temperatures above 38 have never been known for adequacy, right? The next day I felt much better. The temperature dropped, and my head didn't hurt anymore, although there was definitely some noise left in it. So I finished my unscheduled day off and headed back to the library, where during the break I decided to look at that notebook again. I don't know why, but something seemed to pull me to look at these scribbles again. I didn't feel such a craving even when I quit smoking, and it was very hard for me. Going down to the basement and opening the iron cabinet in which that notebook was kept, I quickly found it and opened it, except this time it wasn't scribbles. No, they were definitely some kind of symbols. Yes, they are illegible and difficult to read, but still symbols. These were the coordinates. It took me a while to figure it out, but at some point the puzzle in the heads seemed to take shape. These were the coordinates of something. Something that was in the woods outside the city, if I understood everything correctly, of course, and if you believe Google Maps. And this time I didn't get a headache while I was reading the contents of this thin notebook. But the noise in it definitely got louder. You know, I probably should have stopped at that moment, burn a rotten notebook, and try to forget about it like a bad dream. But I was curious, so on my very first weekend, I packed up and went to the forest, towards the coordinates that were written in that notebook. It probably looks very stupid from the outside, and I assure you, it is. It was completely idiotic, but I decided to satisfy my curiosity anyway. Early in the morning, I packed up, got dressed, and went to the bus stop, from where I took a bus to the city border and went to the coordinates. It was far enough to walk, so it took about 2 hours until I finally reached my destination. It was a clearing in the forest, surrounded by a fence made of metal sheets. Why would someone fence something in the forest in this way? I thought. This is absolute nonsense. Almost no one goes to this forest anyway, except for a dozen very fanatical mushroom pickers. However, the fence has not gone away from my thoughts. He continued to stand, blocking the way to the place where I wanted to go. I climbed the nearest tree and carefully climbed over the fence. Beyond it was a clearing overgrown with tall, bright green grass. Unnaturally thick grass, which cannot grow in the forest. And when I looked closely, I realized that this was not a clearing at all, but a crater. The crater is probably from a meteorite. At least that's what I thought when I noticed the melted earth at the edges of the clearing. I went to the center, pushing aside the tall, sometimes too tall, grass with my hands. In the center lay, I do not know how to describe it. It was a meteor, but somehow strange. It was porous and hollow from the inside, as if it served as a capsule or could be a storage for something. I do not know what I expected to see here, but I was frankly disappointed. I was walking back to the fence along the path I had already made through the extremely dense grass when I felt a burning sensation in my hand, as if from nettles. The sleeve of the jacket on my left arm slightly peeled off from my active movements, and apparently I touched the nettles hidden in this grass with my bare skin. Cursing, I stumbled to the fence, rubbing my stung hand, and climbed over it since there was something to cling to from the inside. Disappointed, I headed home. It was only when I finally got to my apartment and took off my outerwear that I noticed something on my left arm that shouldn't have been there at all. Grass. The grass is the same rich color as in that clearing in the forest. The grass that grew from the place where I thought the nettle had stung me. I immediately tried to pull this stuff out of myself, but as soon as I pulled on this bunch of grass, I felt incredible pain. It was like I was trying to pull my hair out. Whatever this thing is, it has already taken root in my left hand. I panicked then. I shaved off this stuff, but literally 10 minutes later, this weed grew out of my skin again. The noise in my head became deafening. Now I could even make out fragments of phrases. I tried to cauterize the place where this grass grew from, but it didn't help. Now I could feel this weed growing under my skin, slowly but surely. I locked myself in the house and started trying all the ways I knew. I cut my own hand, trying to pull out the roots and cauterize the wound after. I squeezed the blood flow with a tourniquet. I tried a lot, but it didn't help. And in the process of all this, I still found an article on the internet about a meteor shower that took place near our city. Apparently, that clearing grew on the site of the fallen meteor, which brought with it, in itself, this weed. And the noise in my head turned into a second stream of thoughts. I'm willing to bet that these are the thoughts of this plant that is now literally using me as a garden bed. This stream, he expressed pleasure and satiety. When I realized this, I almost threw up. They were eating me right now and were very happy with it. To hell with everything. I ordered a jar of pesticides from the store, the most potent ones I could find. They'll be here in half an hour. I'm going to cut my arm open and pour pesticides right on the roots of this stuff, and then I'm going to cauterize every single one of them. If it doesn't help, well, I ordered a few liters of gasoline. I'll pour it into the bathroom, build something like a Bickford cord, set it on fire, lie down in the bathroom and burn myself to unconsciousness with pills. If this stuff has nowhere to grow, then maybe the weed will die. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe I should have called the paramedics or the cops, but I won't do it. This thing is too dangerous. Pesticides and gasoline will be delivered to me soon. Pray for my luck and in no case approach round glades with unnaturally bright, green and dense grass. And Strange, thank you for the opportunity to tell your story posthumously.